This hourly segment is brought to you by In the Know with Wealth Management Group, hosted by Craig Bolanos. Heard Sunday mornings at 10.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi at a press availability yesterday said this in handicapping day one and talking about days going forward of the impeachment hearings.
This isn't about for Democrats. This is for the American people. This is about patriotism. It's not about politics, Democrats, Republicans. It's not about anything political. It's about patriotism. It's about honoring our oath of office.
That's what this is about, Dan. You figured it out.
This isn't political,
No.
really. Huh. Well, if you're not even thinking about politics, if this is not being viewed through the prism of politics, then why were you previously so concerned about this matter being one that engendered bipartisan support? And then you ultimately discarded that. And any question along those lines was treated badly by Nancy Pelosi, including the reveal of the whistleblower. James Rosen asked that, and he was called Mr. Republican Talking Points by Nancy Pelosi. I'm sure he's still stinging from that. But, it's not just James Rosen, and it's not just Rand Paul, and it's not just Republicans. Jack Schaefer, who's a senior media writer for Politico, had an op-ed yesterday, the press should name the whistleblower. By leaving the whistleblower's mask intact, establishment outlets believe they've navigated their way to the right side of the ethical line. But the whistleblower's identity has become a political issue. Oh, gosh, politics. And all this press coyness, giving this much information and no more, puts the country's top publications at risk of losing the trust of their readers. The approach enforces the prejudice that the established press is run by a bunch of high-handed, hypocritical elites. It also surrenders a newsworthy story to elements of the right-wing press unencumbered by the New York Times' ethical sensibilities when it comes to revealing supposed names of Trump critics and publishing their names. So you can tell from his due deference to the New York Times, this is no flack for the Trump administration or the center-right press, Jack Schaefer at Politico, and yet he still believes that we should stop being too cute by half in the Beltway press corps. For more on this topic, we're pleased to be joined by Bret Baier. He's Fox News anchor and author of the just-released book, 3 Days at the Brink, FDR's Daring Gamble to Win World War II. It's interesting. William Faulkner wrote his novel As I Lie Dying while working on working as a night shift job. He worked at a power plant. He worked at his dad's golf and Chicago Railroad Company. And I wonder what Bret Baier's process is for writing these books. Is he writing these books during
this long intro to him?
During this or during Tucker? Or what is he doing? Bret Baier, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, happy to be here. No, I'm writing at night, and it's a process. You get through a long day of impeachment hearings. 2 hours at the typewriter takes you out of that mindset, which can be a good thing. You
still use a typewriter, Hemingway?
No, the old Word document. That's what I'm doing.
There you go. All right. So, what about what Nancy Pelosi had to say? This is not political.
Yeah, that's not true. And
yeah.
So, because it's very political, and the reason there was such reticence on her part to get involved in this in the first place was because of the politics. She didn't want the Democrats from 31 districts that had won where Trump had won in 2016 to have to vote on this. It turns out that two of them voted against the inquiry to begin with, and that was that moment was the biggest win for the Trump administration. So now, as you're seeing all these details, there are some ugly things. There are some things that some Republicans will have a problem with how it was done. But the bottom line, as you watch all of these hearings, is it impeachable? Is it enough to kick a president of the United States out of office? Today, you're going to hear from the former ambassador, Marie Yovanovitch. They're going to tell a really interesting story and sometimes ugly story about how she was kicked out of that position. And it may get emotional at times. But the bottom line to that is that the ambassador serves at the pleasure of the president. And
well, I'm sorry, we all lose our jobs, and yes, sometimes it's tearful when you get kicked out of a job that you like, but it's not. And is she claiming too that she heard part of this phone call in July because she was kicked out in May?
No, she's not. I don't think she is. She's not. But there's another staff member who did, and that's another question. We saw what we saw on the transcript of the call.
Right.
I mean, what are we gaining from the phone call in the restaurant? Yes, the president really did want the Ukrainians to investigate, and I think it'll be interesting testimony with Ambassador Sondland from the EU.
Me too.
But the bottom line question is it impeachable?
Well, also, too, this is the point that John Ratcliffe made the other day, and now it's being reinforced by another high-ranking official in Ukraine, their foreign minister, Prosteko. We were never pressured. There was never a linkage between the investigations and the military aid. And, of course, for all of the Democrats now running around using the word bribery because I guess quid pro quo doesn't test as favorably, you have bribe now redefined as I give you something for nothing in return.
It's just, here's the uphill battle for Democrats. One is that we spent 2 years on the Russia investigation where everyone, including Adam Schiff, said we have hard evidence of collusion with the Trump administration and Russia. And then the Mueller hearing happened, and it fell flat. So with that as the backdrop, now middle America is supposed to get in the weeds on this Ukraine story and say, this is what we should kick out the president about, 11 months out of an election where we, the voter, can decide whether we want to kick out the president or not.
Yeah, it's what Kim Strassel, who I know is a regular on Special Report, wrote in the Wall Street Journal, and a good piece too. Essentially the boy who cried wolf story. She writes, Democrats didn't lose the war for hearts and minds on Wednesday. They lost it 3 years ago. They lost it by pursuing things they hoped would lead to something and making assertions about what they had that they didn't have, as you were describing. And so, right, there's a certain amount of the electorate, a large percentage of it, that seems inured to anything they have to say.
Yeah, and a lot of this is baked in the cake. This president is different. He operates differently. Some people really hate it. Some of it is ugly. Some of it is New York real estate kind of talking.
He's a bombastic businessman.
Yeah, but some people say, "Hey, get me the results, and you do it how you want to do it. Just stay within the lines." And that's the question that they're, battling back and forth about.
Can you help me out? David Holmes is, Bill Taylor's assistant, who apparently is trained to listen to officials. That's what CNN was saying.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, honestly, that's how they're describing him. He's appearing behind closed doors today. Why? Why can't we hear his, public testimony? That's
a good question. I think it's setting the table. I think it's they want to hear what he has to say before he's brought out publicly. We're at the beginning of this process. This is not the end of the process.
Yeah,
this is the beginning. We're in inning one, and it could be a long game.
What do you think of, going back to the Jack Schaefer piece in Politico that I read an excerpt from? What do you think about that, about naming the whistleblower, about Lindsey Graham and others call that, look, it's DOA if the whistleblower doesn't testify. This is nonsense.
I mean, there's two sides of it. One is we are where we are. We're kind of beyond that point. That's the one side. The other side is, if this guy and his history somehow is tied to the vice president and his actions in Ukraine, and it's kind of all weaved together, it should be part of the questioning. Any of these senators who are talking about this could go to the Senate floor and say the name.
Right.
They are protected on the Senate floor.
Right.
Rand Paul was on my set, could have said the name, but they're not. The reason we're not is because you have to be 100% sure, 100%. Because you get the wrong name, you put it out there, that is a major, major problem.
And with respect to that, it is interesting that they're not saying the name, but it's not just going back to his connections potentially to Biden and Brennan and others that have been reported. If this guy Eric Shermell, I'll say his name, is the whistleblower, as Paul Sperry reported in Real Clear Investigations. But it's also because of what Adam Schiff said on Wednesday. Now Adam Schiff's legitimacy is in question. So is that true? Kevin McCarthy said yesterday that Adam Schiff was lying, that he does know who the whistleblower is. There's a poster board. It's been 93 days since Adam Schiff knew the identity of the whistleblower. Adam Schiff says he doesn't know the identities. So now that's material,
I would
too.
love to ask Adam Schiff that question. I would love to ask Adam Schiff that question. I mean, I think that's a legitimate question. He said the other day that he didn't know who it was. Well, somebody on the staff knows who it is, and if he's not briefed on who it is, then that's probably an issue. Hey, listen, guys, I got to pop on the set.
All right.
Because I'm getting ready for coverage.
Bret, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
All right, we'll see you.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
You're listening to Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
This Thanksgiving, think outside the oven with a brand new grill from the Ace Thanks Grilling event this Saturday, November 16th from 11 to 2. Head to your local Ace for great deals, giveaways, and turkey grilling demos, showcasing our top brands like Traeger, Weber, Big Green Egg, and more. Plus, get free assembly and delivery on grills $3.99 and up. Don't miss the Thanks Grilling event this Saturday from 11 to 2 at your local Ace. See participating stores for scheduling or exclusions. Free assembly and delivery for Ace Rewards members valid through December 24th.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
Doesn't it seem like things are always getting more expensive? Groceries, the rent, even utilities. Cost of living is up, but Allstate can help lower your cost of driving. With new lower auto rates in Illinois, you get the same high-quality coverage and hands-on expertise from a local Allstate agent. Now with new lower rates, you're in good hands with Allstate.
If you haven't quoted Allstate lately, it's the perfect time. Get